Hey guys, happy Sunday. Happy self-care Sunday. It is Charmaine and this is Chats with Charm. I am so excited to hop on this Sunday, mainly because I wanted to talk to you guys about a special topic to me and one that I feel like is not often talked about amongst women of color. And I've seen some videos about it before on YouTube. I've seen some conversations happen here or there, but I've just never seen a woman of color actually command this topic. So if this is something that you have experienced or dealt with, or you know somebody who has it, please drop a yes or share your story in the comments. I'm really big about connecting with people and being real. So I would love to just comment back and just get to know you. So today's topic is about PMDD. PMDD. And if you see me looking down, I may have written a note or two because I just want to make sure I cover everything. Those of you guys who are new to my channel, I don't do a lot of heavy editing in my YouTubes. It's just a conversation, and what comes up comes up. So if you see bloopers or something weird happens, oh well. That's just me. Okay, so I'm all about just being raw, real, authentic, and I hope that is what comes off to you guys in my videos. So let's get into this topic. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Big word. So there's a difference between PMDD and PMS. PMS is premenstrual syndrome, and it is something that many women, millions, experience 1 week out of the month, maybe even 2 weeks out of the month, where our bodies have been hijacked. Usually our emotions, where we're, a little bit more angry, sad, frustrated, the gamut of emotions are showing up for us during this time. We might also have, outside of emotional symptoms, we might have physical symptoms where we're having cramps, backaches, bloating, constipation. There's a list. Water weight gain. We could also be just eating a lot more, eating less, sleeping a lot more, sleeping a lot less. There are so many symptoms that a lot of us experience with just PMS. So when you're thinking about what PMDD is that amplified to a whole lot more. So with PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, you're dealing with, this is PMS, the PMS symptoms. You're dealing with PMDD symptoms somewhere up here on between an 8 to 10 scale. And it's really, really intense. So I just want to break down a little bit of the science about this, and something that just came to mind, and I'm going to link them. There are a couple of YouTube videos by women of color who I actually saw early in my journey. I too have PMDD, so early in my journey, I saw their videos, and they were 2 out of nothing that I was able to actually see to try to get some understanding about it. But again, to my first point that I made in the video, oftentimes, if you're looking for those resources for women of color, it's just really hard to find. So that's why I wanted to hop on here and share my story, and also connect with you guys who have this experience as well. So with PMDD, you're dealing with one of the phases in your menstrual cycle, and the hormones during that phase being just completely out of whack. So I'm not a scientist, and I may butcher some of these, but the luteal phase is the phase that comes before you actually start your period. So before you start shedding that egg, there is a phase, and it's usually a week. It could be up to 2 weeks. And during this time, you've already gone through the high of shoot, I can't even think of the name of that phase, and I could probably edit this out, but I said I wouldn't be doing much editing. So if you're thinking about it and you know the answer to this question, the phase in which our bodies are ready to produce an egg, I cannot think of it right now. Y'all are amazing for knowing the answer. But after that phase happens, we have a luteal phase, which is where our body is kind of preparing itself to shed the egg. So our hormones are typically out of whack during this time, and we're experiencing extreme emotional upheavals. So again, I'm not a scientist, so I just want to tell you guys more of my story with PMDD. I found out I had PMDD when I was about 16 years old. I had really severe cramps to the point where I would be in class and I would be doubled over at my desk and feeling very sick. I would go to the nurse's office, couldn't move a muscle because I would be in so much pain, and then somebody would have to come pick me up. And this increased once I got to college, and so then I decided to go on birth control. And I decided to go on birth control because I really didn't know too much about PMDD. I just knew my doctor said that I had it and said that, hey, you have more severe PMS than most women. I was like, okay, what? Like I still didn't know what that meant or what that looked like, aside from like my body just felt hijacked. So I started to take birth control pills, and that led to a hot mess because in college I also discovered that I had generalized anxiety disorder thanks to my beautiful story of childhood trauma. So as a result, I would be going through my PMDD cycles even while on birth control. And how the birth control affected me is that my physical symptoms of cramps and back pain and bloating and having headaches shifted from being physical to emotional. So then I stopped having cramps really bad. Then I started having panic attacks. Then I started feeling a lot more impulsive. I would have moments where I was really angry, moments where I was extremely, extremely depressed, extremely sad. And these moments felt like they lasted forever. But usually when my period came, I would feel a lot more like, oh, I feel a lot better. And then especially by the time my period was over, I felt like I was on cloud nine. Like it was, the best way to describe it would be manic depressive stage, like where during like right before my period I felt just like those levels of depression kind of go up and down. Then after my period I felt like almost euphorically happy, and then happy, and then back into like kind of a sad depressed state once my PMDD symptoms started to come back. So that's like 2 weeks out of the month that I was experiencing that. So I only had like 2 weeks of good, level emotions throughout the month. And then I was in college, so add that stress that was also triggering underlying anxiety and depression. And then you add in the fact that I was also experiencing panic attacks. So it was just like, it was a lot. And I thought it was my birth control. I had no clue. I had no clue that, I knew I had PMDD, but like at that time in college, it kind of had slipped my mind that like that was the core reason, because I wasn't given like a whole like book of these are all of the symptoms and this is how you cope. I just knew that my body was out of whack because I was using birth control, and I thought it was that. So I went from taking the daily pill to maybe around 23 years old, I got the Nexplanon. It was like the shot in my arm, or not shot, but they put like a device in your arm, and it lasts up to 5 years, and it's a more longer term form of birth control. This form of birth control was great because I was not experiencing frequent periods, and that meant less periods, or no period meant no going through my cycles, through my menstrual cycle. So I wasn't experiencing the luteal phase, which was causing my PMDD. But when my period did come, things were crazy, like crazy. It's like it's like my body saved up 6 months of period and was like, bam, you're about to experience the worst period of your life. I was in a relationship at that time, so it definitely impacted my relationship, where there were moments where I was like, I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to break up. I'm not happy. And for him, he just felt like, okay, I know her periods can get a little bit extreme, because I knew that much, so I was able to articulate that. But a lot of my decision making at that time was very impulsive. It was irrational at times and very extreme, because my feelings were extreme. I didn't know how to name what was going on. I just knew, like, I feel really sad, or I feel really depressed, or I'm really angry, you know. It could have been as simple as my boyfriend not getting me Wingstop, and I'm just like, you don't love me, you don't care about me, and it just goes on to the gamut of emotions. So then the other symptoms of PMDD came up, and something that I typically don't talk about too much, and that a lot of women who experience PMDD know what this is like, but it is suicidal ideation. And with suicidal ideation, it's actually one of a big symptom of PMDD that a lot of people are ashamed to talk about, because you do get to a point where you do feel really depressed and you do feel very sad. And a lot of times suicidal ideation is not because you want to commit suicide. At times it's genuinely because you want an escape from the pain. You want to escape from whatever you're feeling at that time. And if it's deep sadness, the last thing you want to do is sit with that when you're extremely hormonal and you're feeling emotionally just out of whack and you don't have a name for it. And normally you don't feel like that. You just want to escape. And it's hard because you can't really explain it to people close to you, because they're just like, girl, why don't you just take a Midol and take a nap? And it's like, but what I'm going through is a little bit more extreme. So I knew that that was coming up for me, but I didn't understand that it was PMDD. I knew that it was attached to my period though, because this was happening so frequently, and specifically around my period, because I would go months and have, not have a period, but then when my period came, that patterning would happen so often that I was like, okay, I know that around my period, things might get rough. I might break up with my boyfriend, might be ready to quit my job, might want to cut off all my friends. Like, there's a lot of things that go on around that time. And then, suicidal ideation, being extremely depressed, being very sad, not wanting to get out of bed for hours, all of those things would happen to me. So I feel like I didn't start to understand PMDD or even get any skills to help me out until maybe 2 years ago. And around 2 years ago is when I started tracking my cycle. I used an app called the Flo App. I'm not being paid or endorsed by them. I'm literally just sharing a resource. But I used the Flo app so that I could track my symptoms. The app allows you to type in little notes, and it also allows you to plug in little icons that they have that will name what are you feeling today? Are you feeling sad, anxious, depressed? What is your menstrual flow? If you're not having a period right now, just kind of tracking your mood, your emotions, your body responses. So around the time before my period, I started tracking what was I experiencing, and I started tracking that for months. It was literally 3, 4, 5 months had passed, and I had gathered all this data, and then I started Googling to find out what the heck was going on. And I knew again that I was having issues around my period, but I just didn't know PMDD and then other stuff and then other stuff and other stuff. So I started to find out about PMDD, and actually brought it to my therapist's attention, because my therapist even said, 1 week out of the month, usually you're really good, and then 1 week out of the month, things are just you're in a deep, dark area of despair, and it's really hard to get you out of that because it's right before your period. And that's when I told her, I was like, I think I have PMDD. I remember when I was around 16, I was told that I had it, but I thought that just meant I had really bad cramps. I didn't know that there were all these emotional responses that were coming up for me. And at the time, my physical responses were going away, but the emotional responses were starting to heighten. And so that came awareness, but there was really no solution. I just was aware of it. And I think awareness is important because with awareness, you can start helping yourself. But when you're not aware and you're just like, I just have really sucky periods, like that kind of leaves you in the dark because it does nothing to actually get to the core of the problem. So I started to listen to podcasts. There's one I really love called PMDD Diaries. I'm going to also tag that in the comments as well, or in the description below. She has a great podcast that helped me understand more about PMDD, and everything I'm talking about she also explained as well. This is a woman of color, so it was really nice to come upon someone who I felt like could relate to me and understand what I was going through. So I started doing more research, started doing a little bit more digging, and around this time I was also in therapy actively, and a lot of childhood stuff was starting to come up. So around my period, it was just exacerbated even more. And again, I had the Nexplanon in my arm, so when my period did come, it was like full force. I got off birth control and I decided to just like regulate my cycle, let my body naturally adjust so that I could start keeping track and giving myself whatever support I needed so that I could start feeling better. And that first step made a huge difference because now my cycle was regulated. It was not irregular. It was, I knew when my cycle was coming, so I was able to really be there for myself when I needed it and just figure out like what tools can I use to support myself. Now, not everybody has that story. A lot of us have irregular periods. I had irregular periods when I was younger, so if I was doing this when I was younger, it might be a little bit more difficult. If you are someone who is using birth control and that just helps regulate your periods so you can keep track of things, I'm completely supportive and say go ahead and do it. But if there's still a way for you to track your periods, try it so that you can at least have some awareness of what your symptoms are. So about a year and a half ago, I was in therapy, and then I was also working with a coach. And my coach was giving me tools, and my therapist was giving me tools to help me around that time of the month when I felt really depressed, when I felt really low, when I felt like, I just didn't have any support, and I just felt like all these sad emotions coming up. And some of those tools I'll just name off really quickly, but grounding was a really good one, like taking off my shoes when I felt like really highly, just like it was hard for me to regulate my emotions and things were here. Taking off my shoes, walking in the grass, sand, dirt, whatever I was comfortable enough to take off my shoes and walk in. That was very helpful. Meditating was a game changer at the time because it helped me access some quiet, because during my PMDD stages, or when I'm cycling through that, I have monkey mind and my brain is all over the place and I'm just like on edge often. So meditation really helped me. And then another one that I was given was be in a spirit of gratitude, writing down 5 to 10 things I was grateful for that day, just to kind of help me remember of the good things, some goodness and some positivity, especially when my body is like feeling like everything sucks. So those 3 things were huge game changers in the beginning. I also started, and this was from like watching YouTubes and doing research, I also started taking 5-HTP. 5-HTP it has tryptophan in it, which is great for like boosting your serotonin levels naturally. 5-HTP is natural. It's not something that is going to be addictive or anything that's going to like negatively impact your body. So I started taking 5-HTP and I would take it at night. You can take it in the morning, you can take it whenever, but I started taking it at night so that by the next day in the morning it was in my system. And usually that's what worked for me and I felt really good the next day. I also started taking vitamin D. I took 5,000 dosage, whatever it's called, of of vitamin D, but you can take whatever you're comfortable with. I already have a vitamin D deficiency, so it just made sense. And I also like the way my body felt. I know that some people are like, girl, that's a lot, but it worked for me, and it definitely helped me during those times. I also started taking magnesium. Magnesium is also great for just like relaxation, helping your body just kind of like regulate those hormone levels. So that was something great for me as well. And then cashews were awesome because they naturally have tryptophan in it, which is great for serotonin levels, and dark chocolate. So those were like my go-tos during my cycles. And then I would also incorporate a lot of hot teas, like chamomile teas for relaxation, especially when I was at work. I would have my cashews around, then I would have my dark chocolate, and then I would have my tea, my chamomile tea available to me so it could just like help me relax. This was like my toolbox arsenal when things were really rough during those PMDD stages. And what I started to notice is that my window of tolerance where things were like really bad started to decrease. And that helped so much by just incorporating some of those small changes in my diet. I also incorporated melatonin to help me sleep some nights because the insomnia got really bad. And it just made my window of tolerance a lot better so that I could just show up at work a little bit more, positive and less like I wanted to, off everybody. And then also so that I was interacting with people with just a little bit more awareness, but I was still having the feelings. The feelings weren't going away. And something that I learned is that PMDD brings up a lot of feelings that are at times true. And some of them aren't true. Some of them are like just your brain is interpreting something that you perceive as to be a negative isn't really a negative. And usually if you're not on your PMDD phase, you wouldn't even feel that way. But then sometimes PMDD is actually telling you something that you need to pay attention to. For me, what it was telling me is that there was a lot of unresolved childhood trauma that I was not facing. And a lot of it was starting to come up during that phase in my cycle. Feelings of loneliness, feelings of abandonment, feelings of depression and sadness. And then I was looking for an escape, and it was really painful. It was really hard for me. And, I had those moments of ideation. I had those moments of being like feeling hopeless, and my tools helped. But I think my biggest resource was going to therapy and working with my therapist. And working with my therapist, and I'm still actively in therapy. I'm not at the mountaintop talking about like I'm completely PMDD free. I still have symptoms, but my symptoms are a lot manageable than if you would have talked to me 2 years ago or even a year and a half ago. So everything I listed plus working with my therapist has made a huge difference, because my therapist is helping me do the maintenance work on the childhood stuff so that I can stay mindful and present and be able to really deal with those PMDD symptoms in the moment as they are. And it's not just something else from my childhood just coming up because of a trigger. So I would say that helped. I would also say dialectical behavioral therapy really helped. Dialectical behavioral therapy is like a premier form of therapy for borderline personality disorder. It's great for other personality disorders, but it's also used just in general to help us regulate our emotions. And a lot of us could use a lot of us could use DBT, because it is just, I feel like if you taught kids DBT, if you taught anyone DBT, it would be great to just help us regulate our emotions. Many of us weren't taught when we were kids how to regulate our emotions. And many of us, especially if you grew up in a traumatic environment, you were taught to turn away from your emotions, to ignore them, to stuff them down. And then as you got older, you may have been taught to drink them away, smoke them away, find a partner to help you distract anything to help you not deal with those emotions. Dialectical behavioral therapy helps you address those emotions in small bits while also giving you the self-care that you need. So the tools that I listed, dialectical behavioral therapy gives you like 100 more on top of that. And it's usually done in groups or one-on-one with a therapist. So if you do have access to therapy, I know having access to therapy is a trip and it's hard enough as it is, but if you do have access and you have access to going with a small group, I found my small group on Psychology Today. I specifically found a therapist who did dialectical behavioral therapy, and it was a recommendation of my like one-on-one therapist I work with, and was a great recommendation. And as a result, I have a whole bunch more tools in my tool shed. So now when PMDD rolls around, I have like I'm about to kick your butt type of energy. I'm like, you're not about to get me today. I know what this is. So it's taught me a lot more awareness and mindfulness. If you don't decide to go into DBT therapy, or if you're not working with a therapist right now, the one thing I would say is try to find a therapist you can work with that may be on like a sliding scale payment. If you don't have access to any of those things, the number one thing I would say to try is try meditation, mindfulness meditation. Try mindfulness activities. If you're not sure, you can Google them. One thing I would suggest is like mindfulness by like observing your environment. Just observe, see what's in your environment, and then maybe even describing what's in your environment to yourself. Another form of mindfulness is fully being in the moment, being present, allowing yourself to participate in activities, just diving right in. What I'm mentioning are also DBT skills, but mindfulness, practicing that through meditation is a great way to help you be fully aware of your mindset and what's going on in your body, so that you don't feel hijacked by PMDD. You're aware of it, and as you're aware of something, you can give it what it needs. Sometimes our PMDD is telling us that we need some more self-care. So if you feel those feelings in your body and you're like, oh wow, I feel really sad or depressed or something, doing some mindfulness will help you even have the awareness of that in the first place. Another thing is to question your feelings as they come up. A lot of times when we are in PMDD mode, a lot of feelings come up and it's hard to sift through what's true, what's not true. And it was hard for me to sift through those feelings, so that's why therapy helped for me. But if you are like, I don't know how to, like, I don't have therapy, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to begin. When you feel these feelings, start writing them down. Open up a notebook, get a piece of paper. What are you feeling? Ask yourself, is this true? Is this really what's happening? Does my partner really hate me? What happened to make me feel this way? Be gentle with yourself, remembering that you are vulnerable during your PMDD stage. So something that could be small could actually be a trigger for something else that you've been feeling. And I would say, especially when it comes to relationships, if you are in PMDD mode, I would save any major conversations, any of that stuff. I would wait until after you're out of PMDD mode and after you've had your period, and just write it down somewhere. Because sometimes after you've had your period, you might go back and say, that wasn't even an issue, or that wasn't even true. I was just feeling really crappy or triggered in that moment. The last thing you want to do is make a rash decision while you're in PMDD mode. I have done it before. Many times. Now, I do not have any regrets, because actually PMDD for me was always an indicator that there was something else that I needed to look at, because my patterning is turning away. I turn away with things or people so that I don't have to face whatever it is. So PMDD a lot of times brings it so much to surface that I have to face it. But that may not be true for everybody, and it may not be true for you. For you, PMDD could be like just a bunch of negative stuff coming into your mind because your man or your partner or your woman or whoever person that you're with didn't wash dishes, or they didn't turn off the TV and they're using up all the electricity, or something, something else could be triggering that feeling, and then it could lead to other feelings that come up. Write them down. It's called rage writing, and this is something I also learned from PMDD Diaries. Great resource, great podcast. Is just write all the frustrations down, write all your feelings down, get it all out. Ask yourself, is this true? If it still feels true when you're in rage mode and you're like, forget this, screw this, I'm about to walk out on my partner, I'm about to end this friendship, I'm about to quit my job, pause and wait and do something to self-care, do something to emotionally regulate, things that you can do quickly. Go ground, take off your shoes, go ground yourself, drink some tea, go for a workout, go for a walk, go do some yoga. And if you're not even in the physical space to want to get up and go do anything, turn on some soothing music. Turn on, maybe you have a humidifier, maybe you have some sage that you want to burn or some incense, something that can just make you feel good instantly. I would suggest, because this looks different for everybody, make a list of things that feel good for you. What feels good when you are on your period? This is also something I got from my coach. So she was awesome in like telling me, and this is something she tells all her clients, is what feels good. Make a list. Go to that list when you're in PMDD mode so that you have a resource and you're automatically like, okay, I can do something on this list. Another thing that you can do, make a emergency box, make an emergency toolkit of some sort. I have an emergency toolkit on my phone, and I have an actual bag. So I'm going to tell you what's in both before I close out of this conversation. So on my emergency toolkit on my phone is the Mighty app. The Mighty app, which I will also drop below, is an app that is super awesome. It's a lot of people connected around their illnesses, whether it's mental health or it's physical, whatever their ailments are. And it's not just one big old sad, like, we all have crap going on and this sucks. Yes, some people are venting because, you know, oftentimes you don't have someone to talk to and you need that space, but there are also so many like cute resources on there to just make you feel good. Like literally there's like a whole group of distracting you with pets, and they're just cute pets, and you can hop on there and just look at pets. If you just feel like you just need someone to talk to, you can hop on there, comment something. And if you're in a group, usually people are so supportive on the Mighty app. They'll hop in and comment and send you some resources or some support. And there are plenty of women in that on the app and in special groups that have PMDD, along with other what's called comorbidities, which are other like mental health issues, which could be depression, anxiety, bipolar, borderline. Some women also have physical ailments on top of dealing with PMDD. Women, men, people. I'm just saying women just because it's automatic, but it's there, and it's a great app. Another one outside of the Mighty app that I use is Insight Timer. Lots of great meditations. It's free. They have practitioners of color on there, so you can feel like, okay, I can hop on, find somebody who relates to me and do this meditation, completely guided. And sometimes when you're in PMDD mode, finding the strength and the energy to just meditate is like, my mind is in monkey mind mode. I can't even access that. I know I deal with that till this day. So Insight Timer is great because I have a bunch of meditation resources right there where all I have to do is turn it on, press play right then in the moment. Another thing that's in my toolkit is I have like a little coloring app. I don't use it because I actually do physically do like coloring, but it's there in case I ever need it. So it's a coloring app because coloring is calming to me, and I just love coloring, and it makes me kind of feel like I can escape the moment. Another one is sorry y'all, I am drawing a blank. Another one is my Kindle app. I have that on there too. You can, if you're into Audible, you can put that there too. My Kindle app, I'll put like a book that is just like a fantasy book or something that's fun, that is just like, will take me away from any super serious thoughts so that I can just have a moment to relax and read. Reading is great. Sometimes it just can get you out of whatever funk that you're in the moment. And it's just a great way to like just take yourself away from the moment of whatever you're feeling. I usually go to my emergency phone toolkit when I am like in a super heightened stage. I might be feeling extremely lonely or extremely sad, or just something came up and I just really need to grab a quick resource. In my physical toolkit, I have my coloring book in there. I have some really awesome, just great self-help, feel-good books in there. I have word search because I like to be an old lady and do my word searches. And I used to have my Nintendo Switch in there. I took it out because I just didn't want it to break. But my Nintendo Switch, I play Animal Crossing. It's super relaxing and fun for me. So that's like another thing that I put in my little emergency bag. I keep my emergency bag close, and it's close because if something happens or a trigger pops up, and now I have a little bit more tools to emotionally regulate in the moment, but I still want to have something nearby just to like give myself some extra self-care and self-love. I would also say aromatherapy helps a lot. If you have some candles, if you have just anything that smells good, a diffuser, that can help too while you are doing something in your toolkit, just to calm your nervous system down and just to calm your body so that you can just be just at peace and access something called wise mind, which is the part of your mind. I've learned this in DBT, but wise mind is like the part of your mind that will make more rational, level-headed decisions. And a lot of time when we're in PMDD mode, all we want is to cuss somebody out, to cry, to eat something good, and just be left alone. So I would highly suggest that you try putting aside a toolkit on your phone or nearby, because that'll just help you go from here to here. Everything that I'm suggesting is completely from personal experience because I do have PMDD. I also have comorbidities, which I hope I'm saying that word right. That I'm going to talk about later on in some of my other YouTube series sessions with y'all. But I want you to feel like you are not alone. PMDD is something else, and it can feel like a monster. And when other people aren't experiencing it, you can feel like you're on an island trying to over-explain to somebody what the heck PMDD is. And then if you have PMDD and again you suffer from depression, anxiety, or anything else, it just exacerbates what you're experiencing. For me, currently, update. So like I said, my window was here with PMDD maybe 2 years ago. It's here. It still comes up for me. I'm currently using an IUD. Not saying you need birth control. I was off birth control for a while and took a break for my personal beliefs and reasons. But I took a break. Now I'm back on birth control, and it's to just help regulate my menstrual cycle so that I can have less periods, lighter periods, and then that way it makes my PMDD a little bit more manageable. I don't go through 2 weeks anymore of just rage and I used to call it the crazies. I try not to call it that anymore because I want to have a positive relationship with PMDD, but I know we all feel sometimes that it's very frustrating. So one thing that is important to me is to just reduce that window as much as possible, my window of tolerance with PMDD, so that within that window, I can use my tools effectively. Now it went from 2 weeks to maybe like a few days before my period, or just the day of my period. Things can feel a lot stronger. And because of that, because of all the tools I've given you, I'm more mindful of it now than I was before. I would also say, like, share with your friends if you're comfortable, share with your partner, explain what you're dealing with, keep track of it. If you need to tell your partner, hey, these are the days, I've done that before with partners where I'm like, hey, these are the days I might just need to be away from you a little bit, or protect yourself. No, but these are the days that, you know, I might be struggling a little bit more, and I'm sorry. So this is true for PMS. This is true for PMDD. I just want y'all to know that you are loved and supported. If you want any more advice or any more tips from me, please let me know in the comments. I don't mind making another video or just expanding a little bit more. like I said, I'm not a scientist. I am also at times forgetful. I say that non-judgmentally. It's just honest. Like, I'm not a scientist and I am forgetful, but so if I missed any terms or anything like that, you know, don't come for me in the comments. It's all love. But I did want to share my story and share some resources with you guys, just to let you know that you are not alone. We are going through this together. A lot of us, even those who have gone through so much therapy and take all the vitamins in the world, and you know, they might even be on an SSRI. I know that that's been recommended. I don't take SSRIs just because I'm trying to stick with the natural route, but I have no qualms about doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. So again, whatever that looks like, I gave some tips. If you have some other tips, please share them, and just know that you are not alone. You are loved. You are loved by me, and I appreciate you for tuning in. And if you loved this video, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next Sunday. As always, be safe, be well, and thank you. Bye.